My friend's stepmom and stepbrother tried to get my daughter deported so I would date him. I, F30, am a single mom to a mixed-race 3-year-old daughter. I'm white, but my daughter's father is a New Zealand Maori, the indigenous people of New Zealand. I have a close friend from college who I will call Kate, who really is a cool and genuinely nice person, but her stepmom Pam and stepbrother Kyle are toxic, entitled people. Pam is unemployed, used to work at an Amazon warehouse but is now living on disability. Kate's dad, who I will call Kenny, works as a truck driver, and Kyle is also unemployed. As to my understanding, he's never been able to hold a job for long. Also, while Kate and her family are originally from West Virginia, they moved to Pennsylvania about some time ago. On July last year, I held an engagement party for my friend Kate and her fiancé Jack at my family's vacation home in the Catskills, as they were supposed to get married in December last year. Up until then, I didn't really talk to Kate's stepmom or stepbrother. I don't know them, but apparently, they've been following me, my family and friends on Instagram and Facebook. According to Kate, Pam is apparently envious of the photos and stories me and our friends, post of us traveling, going out to restaurants, photos of us at parties or networking events, going on family boating trips, etc. For this reason, Pam was demanding that she and her son be invited to the engagement party so she could socialize with our friends, my family, as well as colleagues from the museum and university, as Pam and Kyle had no social life or friends of their own. Kate and I relented and allowed them to come, as we didn't want them hassling Kate about this later on. Also, a little more background about Kyle. Kate did also go on to talk about how Pam pretty much coddled Kyle, that he was homeschooled sometime during grade school as Pam didn't like the fact the school disciplined him for bullying and other antisocial behavior, that Pam got mad at the school when they raised concerns that Kyle may have mental health issues and sexist beliefs, that he was never told off by Pam but rather enabled by her, and Pam wouldn't let Kenny discipline Kyle for anything he did, but apparently Pam could discipline Kate for the most minor infractions. That said, Kyle grew up coming to expect to be given anything and everything he wants, as well as never having had to face any real consequences for his actions. For this reason, Kyle has no real friends, has no social skills, and no respect for personal boundaries. At the party, as mentioned in my previous post, Kyle and Pam seemed out of place. Pam kept trying to talk up Kyle to my female friends at the party. Kyle just seemed awkward or uncomfortable the whole time, and they couldn't hold conversations with the other guests. Later Kyle started flirting with me. I initially tried to be polite, keeping my answers to his questions short, but after Kyle called my daughter a half-breed, saying that I should get rid of her so I could go out with him, I felt so disgusted and angry with him that I snapped, shouting at him and his mom to get out of my family's house. Pam got mad at me, accusing me of disrespecting her son, which I don't deny, demanding I apologize to her son. Pam screaming at the other guests who were now also chastising them, Pam and Kyle, etc. I in turn called Pam and Kyle out for being racist, classless, misogynists, with the two of them leaving after realizing that nobody was supporting them, and Rachel calling being on the phone with the sheriff's office. Pam and Kyle then started sending me and Kate messages, angrily expressing how they felt humiliated. Pam calling me and my guests, most of whom were friends and colleagues from the museum and university, were snobs, as she felt we thought that we were too good for them. Pam demanding I apologize to them. Pam and Kyle demanding I go out on a date with Kyle to give him a chance, and other things. I ended up just blocking Pam but neglected to also block Kyle. Fast forward to late March, ICE came over to our family's home in the Upper East Side, since apparently Pam and Kyle reported my daughter as an illegal immigrant, despite my daughter being a U.S. citizen, born in Boston, and me being her mother. I then called my grandpa's law firm, who sent over a couple of lawyers. The lawyers dealt with the ICE agents, while I showed documents, etc. Anyway, Kate told me that Pam and Kyle tried to get my daughter deported, because they didn't want a non-white person in their family. Pam wanted me to get with her son, and they hoped that this would somehow make me willing to go out with Kyle. Instead, my family and I decided we were going to take them to court. Our lawyers reported Pam and Kyle to the Inspector General's office for their fraudulent report. Note, from what I understood, by filing a fraudulent report to ICE, Pam and Kyle did would be a federal offense under 18 U.S.C. Sec. 1001, but as to whether DHS pursues them is up to them. If DHS investigates Pam and Kyle, that would be separate from our family's case against them. Kate and her fiancé Jack did initially plan to go NC with Pam and Kyle, but that proved to be impossible, as Kate and her dad are trying to mend their relationship. Kenny was away from home a lot due to being on the road, and even when he was at home, he didn't want to get involved with what he called family drama, and just told Kate to do whatever Pam demanded of her in order to keep the peace in their family. This did cause a long strain in her relationship with her dad, but he's now genuinely trying to mend his relationship with Kate, trying to set boundaries with Pam. But that said, it would be nearly impossible for Kate to go NC with Pam or Kyle, without also going NC with her father. I understood Kate's situation and accepted her decision to only remain low contact with Pam and Kyle, as Kate did also promise to not only not mention anything about me to Pam or Kyle, but also keep me informed on anything they may be doing. A few days after ICE's visit, Kyle contacted me again, this time from a different number, angry that my daughter wasn't deported, demanding I put her up for adoption or give her to her birth father, my ex, reiterating that they don't want a mixed kid in their family and that he wanted my daughter out of the picture before we could get together. Feeling too tired to deal with it, I just told Kyle that any communication between us and him or his mother would need to be done via our lawyers going forward, before hanging up on him. From different numbers, Pam and Kyle then tried calling me multiple times again, leaving voice messages which frankly sound unhinged and incoherent, but boiled down to them demanding I talk to them, Pam saying I'm not being a good daughter-in-law and other words to that effect. Kate then contacted me, warning me that Pam and Kyle are freaking out, Pam ranting that she can't afford to be taken to court again as she's living on welfare. Kyle is unemployed, Kyle being obsessed with me and Pam wanting to give her son the perfect wife who would take care of them. Additionally, Kenny is frustrated and angry with Pam and Kyle's shenanigans, with Kenny telling them to just drop it and to leave me alone, but they're not listening to him. Our lawyers have been in contact with Pam's lawyer Rob, who is also Pam's older brother, with Rob wanting to negotiate a settlement before things go to court. Because of this, our lawyers organized a meeting at my grandpa's LIC office. At the meeting, me, my dad and the two lawyers assigned to me, met with Rob, Pam, and Kyle. To his credit, Rob was courteous, professional and does seem like a genuinely reasonable person. However, as our lawyers started discussing the settlement, Pam interjected, demanding that I drop the lawsuit, saying things along the lines of "You are going to be my son's wife, so you better start acting like it," her saying that I should be grateful that her son is into me as not many guys are going for single moms like you. Keep in mind Pam herself was a single mom before she married Kate's dad. Pam saying her son and I will give her a grandchild who, as she says, looks like us, and your immigrant daughter, Pam referring to my daughter, is not like us, with Pam then turning to my dad and saying our family should be one and we are like you. Rob sat there uncomfortably, clearly embarrassed and ashamed of her sister's behavior as he tried to get Pam to shut up. My dad then told them that we are nothing alike, we do not share their views, we do not share the same values, my daughter is his, my dad's, granddaughter, and that we have nothing in common with them. My lawyer then reminded them that the point of this meeting was to discuss a settlement and that they're not exactly in any position to make demands. Pam, ignoring this, went on her rant saying it was unfair that she spent the better half of her life working minimum wage jobs before going on disability, while my family wastes nice things like our family Christmas parties, boat trips, vacations and good schools on my immigrant daughter, as Pam called my child. Pam continued talking about how she and Kyle deserve these things more than my daughter does. Pam saying it's unfair that my family and I flaunt lives on social media but not invite Pam or her son to join us, despite us inviting Kate, who again, is a close friend of mine, and that her kind of people, referring to my daughter again, have no place in her idea of America. Our lawyers then just asked Pam and Kyle, if you're not here to discuss a settlement, then what exactly are you hoping to gain from this meeting? Kyle then spoke up, saying that he demands that my family drop our lawsuit and that I give in to his demand to give my daughter away and agree to go out with him. In exchange, he says that he will allow me to keep on working but that my money needs to go to him as he will control our finances, with Kyle saying I'm going to be the man of the house, so you better start listening to what I tell you. I just replied saying, what house? You live in an apartment with your mom. Kyle then got up and tried to walk towards me, but Rob had to hold him back as my dad and one of my lawyers got between me and Kyle. My other lawyer then left the conference room to call for security as Pam started screaming and shouting her own lawyer/brother Rob for trying to hold back Kyle. A couple minutes later, security arrived and tried to escort Pam and Kyle out of the office. However, as they were doing this, Kyle then broke free and tried running back towards the conference room we were in but was being held back by office staff. Kyle then got into a fist fight with the two security guards and some of the office staff who tried to restrain him, with Kyle finding himself in a corner, with his fists up, his face red and incoherently screaming at the security and staff surrounding him. Seeing this, I instructed the office receptionist to call 911. Seeing that the receptionist was on the phone, Pam then tried grabbing the phone from her as I held Pam back, with Pam shouting racist slurs at the receptionist. Realizing that the cops were on their way, Pam then grabbed Kyle as they ran towards the elevator, fleeing the building before the cops arrived. After they left and the police arrived, we gave our statements to the police. The injured security and office staff indicated that they wanted to press charges against Pam and Kyle. We then spoke with Rob, who did apologize to us for their actions, with him going on to say that he only agreed to take their case because they're family. We also moved to file a restraining order against Pam and Kyle, with all communication between to be done via our lawyers. Additionally, as a result of Kyle assaulting security and staff in my grandpa's firm, they decided to pursue their own case against Kyle and Pam as well. Even after the incident at the office, Kyle and Pam continued to send me and my dad messages from different phone numbers and fake Facebook accounts, with Pam accusing me of ruining their future, again demanding we drop the lawsuit, demanding that we somehow get the police off of Kyle's back, Pam accusing me of ruining Kyle's life, accusing my family of being selfish, Kyle threatening to put me in my place, etc. As per our lawyers' advice, we did not respond to their messages or engage with them, but rather just recorded them and forwarded it to our lawyers for documentation. In order to decompress from the stress caused by Pam and Kyle, I got some time off work and spent a week down in Mexico to just relax a little. After returning to the States, I held a dinner get-together with my friends at this restaurant in Park Avenue, where Kate again apologized for all the trouble her stepmom and stepbrother have been putting me through, as I assured her that I don't blame her for any of this. Kate also let me know that she, her dad and Rob have been urging Pam to just agree to a settlement as they can't afford a lengthier court battle, coupled with all the other debts and bills Pam and Kyle already have, and Kenny has been pretty much paying for all their legal bills, draining his savings. Last week, my lawyers met with Pam and Kyle's lawyer Rob again, who informed us that Pam and her husband/Kate's dad Kenny decided to just pay a settlement in order to end this case. Evidently, in addition to my case against Pam and Kyle, they're still dealing with a still separate lawsuit from my grandpa's firm. Kyle has decided to go into hiding as he knows we reported him to the police for what he did in the office. Pam and Kyle have other debts they haven't been paying, and Pam is now even more miserable than before. Because of this, Kenny decided he'd use the remainder of his savings to pay me a settlement, as they need to use whatever other loans and remaining family savings. They still have to pay their other debts and Pam's other legal bills. Kate has also repeatedly refused to help her stepmom or stepbrother as she and her fiancé Jack have their own life, their own bills to pay and are saving not only for their wedding later this year but also to move to the West Coast by sometime next year. Also, just a side note, Kate and Jack were supposed to get married on December last year but due to Jack's injury and their subsequent medical bills, it was postponed until September this year. Correction. Just a correction for my last post. Kate and her fiancé are moving to the West Coast. I incorrectly put Chicago as I may have been a little distracted at the time as I'm also planning a trip there in a few days for a conference. Update. This is just a mini update from my story to share with you some new information as well as answer questions. Firstly, for those who feel that my story is fake, I don't blame you. I mean, my life turning into some kind of Jerry Springer episode is pretty far-fetched as is, with Pam and Kyle randomly choosing to start harassing me was not really something anyone could reasonably expect. Secondly, regarding Pam and Kyle's behavior, it is my understanding that according to Kate and her dad, Pam has been diagnosed with schizophrenia before but has not really sought any treatment, and as mentioned in my previous post, Kyle during his childhood was removed from school and did exhibit antisocial behavior, but he hasn't been formally diagnosed with anything either as his mom wouldn't allow him to be assessed. We have obtained an order of protection against Pam and Kyle, and as for who's paying the settlement, well basically it's going to be Kenny, Kate's dad and Pam's husband, who is going to be effectively paying it for Pam and Kyle, as he is the only one with an income. Okay, I mean Kate and her fiancé Jack do have their own careers and their own income, but they are not financially supporting Pam or Kyle in any way. With Kate and Jack planning to move to the West Coast sometime by December this year or January next year. Kate has also shed some light on Pam and Kyle's possible motivations. Growing up, Kate and her dad has noticed that Pam has had this fascination with being rich. Kate recalls Pam telling Kyle to marry someone who is rich, and over the years, Pam has developed this idea that she deserves more in life. I do come from an upper-class family. Yes, my mom is a lawyer, although she doesn't work for my grandpa's law firm, and my dad works for an asset management firm. However, our home in Manhattan which we live in, the vacation homes, the boat, etc., all mostly belong to my grandpa and the rest of my father's family. I do have my own career and my own income, but as I live with my parents who still pay for most of the bills, I don't really have any major expenditures. That said, if I ever left home and tried to live by myself, yeah, I very likely will struggle on my income alone, so I personally am not rich, as I don't really own anything, and I wouldn't really inherit anything until Grandpa finally keels over. Because of this, I do think that the reason Kyle and Pam have come after me is because they likely believe that if me and Kyle were to get together, my family would support Pam and Kyle, as well as give them the lifestyle they wanted. I should also note that Kenny did also come from a decently well-off farming family in South Carolina, but Kate's grandpa, Kenny's dad, cut Kenny out of the will because of Pam's behavior. From what Kate knows, it's because Pam tried stealing from Kenny's father as well as forging his signature, and at the time Kenny defended Pam's action. Lastly, yes, we do have a home security system in both our Manhattan abode as well as our vacation homes in the Catskills in Boston.